Tim Henderson in the studio. He is a mayoral candidate for the city of Jackson. He's excited. He's qualified, certified, stamped on both sides, and he's here in the studios to talk about himself, his ideals for the city of Jackson, and we welcome your participation, 601-879-0002, and at some point in the interview, we'll be bringing in Dr. Henderson to also grill this young man and put the pressure on him. But anyway, Mr. Tim Henderson, welcome to WYAB.
Tim, thank you so very much. It's an honor and a pleasure to finally meet the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Kim Wade. I really appreciate this opportunity to share ideas, perspectives, and vision with the audience.
That's right.
So I'm looking forward to a great conversation and a great interaction this evening.
All right. Now, Tim, tell people a little bit about yourself, who you are, who your mom and them is, where you from. It's Mississippi. You know
This is Mississippi. Okay, I'm a Delta boy.
Okay.
I was born and raised in Cleveland, Mississippi. As I shared at the press conference, I am one generation removed from the plantation. And so my mother and father were
boy, got a
born
wall,
and raised.
cotton, everything
Yes,
he got on this guy.
Cotton is king. And so I was born and raised in Mississippi, Cleveland, Mississippi. That's where I'm originally from. Graduated undergraduate from Mississippi Valley State University, where I was commissioned into the United States Air Force. Of course, right out of high school, my mom thought I might need a little more discipline than what she was giving me, if you can believe that. I joined the Army Reserves. I joined the Army Reserves as a young kid. I was 17, actually. My parents had to sign the paperwork. And so while I was in college, I was in the Army Reserves, and once I graduated from Valley, I was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Air Force. Served around the world, traveled a lot of interesting places, a lot of interesting things. For those that are interested, my full resume is out on my website, and we'll talk about that as we go forward. But I bring a wealth of experience, a depth of experience that I know can bring some leadership to the city and a totally different transformational perspective, which is what I believe the city needs at this point.
Folks, we're talking with Tim Henderson. Now, Tim, feel free to throw out your social media presence so people will know.
Yes, sir. We have our website. It's been up and running for a couple of months now, a few weeks if we want to say that. And it is Henderson, Henderson, the number 4, Jackson, JXN, Mayor, MAYOR 2025.com. Again, that's Henderson, the number 4, Jackson, JXN, Mayor, MAYOR 2025.com.
All right, folks, Mr. Henderson is here. Now, the city of Jackson, what prompted you to say, okay, I got to do this?
Several things, Wade. It really starts with a heartfelt commitment. I have been working behind the scenes for years. When I was stationed at Jackson State, that's where I actually retired out of. I ran the Air Force ROTC program there.
Oh, okay.
And so I retired there in 2018. While I was there, and since that time, I was really working across the city, seeing the challenges going on with our young people. I remember being called into a meeting at Powell Middle School and learning that our children there, I say our children there, were in single digits on the practice test prior to taking the state test. And so there was a clarion call for help and assistance from the community, and I was there along with a small group of other people, and at that point, it became very real with respect to the education challenges that we're having in the city. But it wasn't just the education system. It's the entire environment that our young people are growing up in. And so since that time, right, we fed folks, we've delivered meals, we've delivered toys, and the elderly have a special place in my heart, right? I think about my mother, my grandmother, my father, my grandfather. They are still our treasure. And I just don't believe that we are doing what we need to do to make sure that our elderly and aged citizens feel like they are valued and are safe in their respective places. And so for me, I prayed about this thing for a year. I struggled with it. And finally, I just said, okay, Lord, whatever you need me to do. So for me, this is about the people. This is about making sure that there are a lot of people suffering. There are a lot of people that are struggling in this city. And for me, it's not about money. It's not about recognition. It's not about position. I have a call to go help these people. And so what people are going to hear me talk about, I have 3 priorities. 1, 2, 3. Take care of the people. Take care of the people. Take care of the people.
Folks, we're talking with Tim Henderson, mayoral candidate here in the city of Jackson. We have Dr. Henderson in the back. Doc may come in and just query both of us in a ping-pong fashion, and that way you can get to the meat of the matter. So, my producer, could you make that on the microphone? And I think that would add a little bit more excitement to it. He is a seasoned interviewer, and I think he can bring some pop to this thing. How you doing, Doc?
I'm doing fine, sir.
Good, good, good. As you know, we're both contending for that office. Bless us with your words or your questions.
Well, one thing for certain, Mr. Ken Wade, you know I worked with you on radio many years ago.
Yes.
You are a conservative. I'm a liberal. Other people are moderate. And Mr. Tim Henderson here is a man that can do it all. He does whatever's necessary that make things right. But one thing I want to say to you, Mr. Ken, you have done something that most candidates for mayor wouldn't do. You are allowing one of your friends, one of your competitors, to be on your show to talk about some of the same problems that you have been talking about for the last 30 years. And I want to say that's an honor for you to do that. Most folks wouldn't do it. Well, Mr. Henderson here is going to be asked a few questions in a few minutes, but I want you to let the people know, why did you do that? You're supposed to be afraid and scared of an opponent.
No. The problems, Jackson is in ICU. This is a desperate situation we find ourselves. And it's not about me, it's not about Tim, it's not about Chokeway, it's not about Delano, it's not about Marcus, it's not about Mr. Loom, whoever. It's about the citizen of Jackson. We've got to make things better. It can be better. We are going to have to, again, bring back the adults. Bring back the people who can make Jackson work. That selfishness has descended over too much of our leadership over the last 40 years. And again, we're in ICU in terms of our finances, the condition of the city, etc. And I'm sure Tim shares that vision that, you know, this is not about us being in a position of mayor, getting our resume enhanced or another accolade. This is about making things work, and he sees that he can do it. He has a vision that could make Jackson better. As long as that's the direction we're headed in, we're all headed in the same direction.
Okay, one thing I want to talk to Mr. Henderson about, and that is, sir, I understand from what I've heard about you during the last couple of years, that you are a man that can get things done because you know how to build coalitions. So tell the listeners and the viewers about some of your experiences where you have been able to tackle problems and solve them when you didn't have all the resources by pooling coalitions together to make things happen in a short period of time.
Thank you, Dr. Henderson. That's an easy one, right? My entire career has been comprised of those types of challenges, and I'll give you some very specific things. I was stationed in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and they had stood up this office called Operationally Responsive Space, meaning our mission was to be able to build capability, be able to respond to an adversary, mainly China, if they were to do some nefarious activities to our space systems in outer space. And so being the guy with the ribbon pinned on him, I only had a very small team. And I'm talking, when I say a small team, I'm talking 3 or 4 people to manage what we envisioned to be $1 billion type capability, because it was to build out satellites that could be readily launched. So for me, I worked across programs and organizations on the West Coast as well as the East Coast and all the way into DC. So what does that mean? Well, being able to, one, identify your problem set. In any job I've been in, you need to figure out what the core issue is that you're trying to get resolved, right? A lot of times people look at the symptoms of a problem. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the city, right? There are some core issues that Jackson needs to resolve at its core. And for me, being in the military, being able to build out that responsive space capability, the need to respond, and I'll say it that way, it required me to work with the folks that were doing the launch systems on the West Coast and the East Coast, but I didn't own any of those launch systems. It required me to work with folks that were doing technology development that were stationed there in Albuquerque, and folks that were in other parts of the country that I can't mention. It required me to go to D.C. where the money pot is and be able to work with folks and convince them that, hey, this is what we're trying to get accomplished. This is the need that it's going to meet. And if we don't get this done, there are going to be dire consequences. And so we were able to pull together that small team of just 4 people, I'll say 4. We were able to go out and do what we needed to do to really establish what the Department of Defense needed in order to respond if we, at least the initial phases.
Now look what you heard, ladies and gentlemen. You heard Mr. Tim, candidate for Mayor of Jackson, talk about the fact that if there's a problem, he's not going to wait until it destroys the citizens or the state.